Today I am up on the roof checking out the gutter guards as we're progressing through our test. The gutter guards have been up for, I would say, about a month at this point, and we're still pretty much in early spring. So you can see the apple tree behind me has blossomed. We've got a red bud just over my right shoulder there that has blossomed. So the green is definitely coming out. The flowers are definitely coming out. We're here on the south side of the garage, and we don't have a whole lot of activity yet in terms of any of the debris that's being kicked off the trees. It is starting to fall, but we're not quite there yet. So I thought I'd take a minute to show you the gutter guards and see how they're performing at this point. What I'm looking forward to is over the next few weeks to a month, we should be getting more of the stuff off the maples, the helicopters off the maples, the oak tassels off the oak trees, and the little flowers that come off the locust trees. Those in particular can be a real pain in the neck. So I'm looking forward to having that stuff hit the roof and allow us to really see how these gutter guards do with a decent amount of debris that has transferred from the trees to the gutter systems. So stay tuned and I'll show you how the systems look. I'm on the south side of the garage. The first system we're looking at is MasterShield. So this is the MasterShield micro mesh gutter protection system. The fine micro mesh screen you can see with the aluminum framework. If you see the purplish pink flowers up here, those are off the red bud tree that is right above the roof here. And then we have some white flowers on this apple tree that are beginning to fall. So this particular gutter guard on the south side is really the only thing that's directly under any of the trees. Plus we have that really tall pine tree that more or less overhangs this section of the gutter. So you can see kind of at the roof level some of the stuff that's up there, and then on the gutter guard itself, this stuff at this point is just waiting for a little bit of a breeze to knock it off. So, you know, here, just have a little bud there that's hanging out. Once we get a little breeze, that stuff will blow right away. But you can see the size of that stuff, how small the flowers are in relationship to the screen. Actually, they look like giant boulders in relationship to the screen openings, so there's no way that any of that stuff is going to penetrate through the gutter guard screen. So it's just waiting for the wind to blow it away. So no issues here, kind of as you would expect at this point. Here we're looking at LeafFilter. Again, just it's the next one over from the MasterShield system on the south side of the garage. You can see the screen is mostly clean, got some small debris sitting on top of it, but no big deal at this point. You can see how this system sits a lot flatter than the MasterShield one next to it. So I think the interesting thing will be how well this does over time, because it's really the only one on this side of the garage that sits flat or relatively flat within the gutter. So it does have a built-in slope to it into the framework itself. But at this point, you can see that the screen is available to take in the water, and we just have some of the flowers off the red bud and the apple tree. Here's the GutterGlove Pro system. You can see none of the flowers has made its way over from the red bud tree, so this doesn't really have anything sitting on top of it. We got a few small twigs and stems and things of that nature, but at this juncture, GutterGlove Pro is mostly free of any debris, and that stuff will just easily blow off when we get a wind that comes through. This is the LeafLock / GutterLove product from MasterShield. You can see that the screen is mostly free of any debris at this point. There's some stuff at kind of at roof level and a little bit of stuff on the screen itself. I did notice, if you look through here, a couple of the long needle pines has made its way in through the screen into the gutter. So this is a system that'll keep out most of fat needle pines, the short needles, but the long needle pines are more likely to penetrate through this system. And it looks like a couple have made its way in, but we have a screen over top of the downspout opening, so it's not going to allow, unless that were just a stand up on end, it will just stay inside the gutter. So at some point we'll open this up and take a look at what's inside. But as you can see here, the leaf lock system installed under the shingles is at a nice angle, and it's keeping most of the leaves and debris off of the gutter guard surface. This is the diamond mesh, somewhat micro mesh gutter guard from the company that creates Valor. So Valor might be a name that you've heard. They've also got another product called Arrow, and then this is their diamond screen system. So you can see here, because it's got the undulations on the screen, essentially the diamond patterns have been kind of stamped out and upward on the screen. This one is actually holding some debris up here because it's kind of worked its way. You can see like that as an example. It's just kind of sitting inside that channel. There's also where the screen meets the metal at the front. There's a little bit of a gap there, so there is some stuff that's kind of sitting up against that, but overall not a lot of stuff sitting up here at this point, and certainly if the water comes along, which it's supposed to do later on tonight, should have no problem going inside the gutter guard. This is LeafFree, the one and only solid gutter cover that we have in this test. You can see it's installed up under the shingles by design. It's got a good forward slope to it, and because it's got a solid surface, it's more difficult for anything to kind of grip onto it. So this one is actually pretty clean. We have maybe just a couple pieces of stuff. If you get under my ladder, you can't even really see it from here. Maybe there you can see just a little bit of stuff, but otherwise the surface itself is open, and that's generally not the issue with this system. Generally the issue is the fact that the leaves and debris can't hold to the top, but it follows the water and can curl around and go inside. So at this juncture, the openings are all clear, so there's nothing that's lodged in the opening itself. My suspicion is some of the debris has gotten inside the gutter, but until we take that off the top, we're not going to really know for sure. So at this point, this is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and as you can see, the water has no issue. There's no debris sitting on top of it that would prevent the water from getting inside the gutter. Okay, now we're on the north side of the garage. You can see a lot more debris sitting at roof level, and you can see the moss that is forming on the roof. This moss has been something, it's been up here over a period of time, but you can see all the little stems coming off the tree, and all that stuff kind of rolls down on top of the gutter guards. So the MasterShield system here is probably closest to all this debris on this section of gutter. You can see some of the stuff as it's sitting currently up on top of the gutter guard, but it will should wash or blow off. So we're expecting a rain tonight and for a couple days this week, so it'll be kind of curious to see how this looks. But as of now, after rain yesterday, a sunny day today, you can see what's going on with the MasterShield. Here we have LeafFilter. Again, on the north side of the garage, there's a lot more debris that's sitting on top of the gutter guard here. You can see on the screen as we go across it, all the debris that's kind of on the screen. Most of it's concentrated on the screen. So this is the one that sits flat or flattest in the gutter, and as a result, because it's more like a shelf, it's collecting more of the debris that's coming off the roof. So the real test of this is going to be in the next couple of weeks when more of the stuff falls off the trees, to see how it performs in relation to the ones that slide up under the shingles. This is LeafSolution. It is also up underneath the shingles. You can see it's installed at an angle, and it's got some debris sitting on top of it. It has these downward channels that collect some of the debris in it. So we kind of just come across there. I think this stick's been sitting up here for a little while, so apparently we haven't had enough wind to kick that off at this point. But it has shifted around a little bit on the top at one point. Well, I guess it is still hanging over a little bit at the edge. Water was dripping off the top of it. So that is what LeafSolution looks like after being up there for about a month. This is GutterLove's high-end DIY product, mid-grade micro mesh professionally installed system. As I've said in the past, it's available under a number of different names at a number of different outlets, either as a DIY product or as a professionally installed product. You can see the debris that's sitting on top of the screen at this point. The screen has a little transition where the screen goes from being flat up a little, creates a little V at the bottom in an effort to catch the water. And you can see some of that debris is just kind of sitting along there. So, again, it appears to be doing a good job in terms of the leaves and debris. A non-issue at this point in the game. This is the leaf lock / GutterLove system on the north side of the garage. Again, you can see the debris that's sitting on the top. There's a stick down at that far end, and then just some smaller debris kind of throughout, but you can see that small debris, including some of the shingle granules, by and large are too large to get through the screen opening. One thing of note here, if I can get it the right angle, you can see right there in the middle of the screen a pine needle that landed upright. So that pine needle is just kind of lodged inside the screen. We're not going to touch it. We'll see what happens. My sense is it'll either push through inside the gutter, or it'll eventually just kind of break off, either as more debris hits it or as it dries up. But at this point, this is the leaf lock GutterLove system installed up under the first course of shingles, so it has a pretty decent angle on it. Here we're looking at the clean mesh system, micro mesh. This is the one that's most akin to MasterShield. Has a more porous screen than MasterShield does, but you can see the debris that's on it. There's a stick down here, a little twig, but there's not a whole lot of stuff sitting on top of it at this point. It does have a series of weep holes across the front, and I am noticing a little bit of activity there where some of the debris is getting lodged into those weep holes. So, as I pointed out previously, the weep holes on this thing can be the point of success or failure, depending on how tightly that metal butts up against the screen. And in this case, it's a little early to say in terms of how much those weep holes are going to impact the overall performance of this system. But if we've seen a failure point on this system, it's mostly at the leading edge here that hooks to the front lip of the gutter. So In terms of the leaves and debris, looks like a little bit of stuff maybe has passed through to the screen below, but the vast majority of it is still sitting on top of the screen itself. So the number one ranked system in this test, the first place winner in this case was LeafFree here on the south side. We had GutterGlove Pro also on the south side of the gutters, and that was followed by LeafLock, which we also call GutterLove. Its official name is GutterLove. We call it LeafLock. All three of those systems were here on the south side of the garage, and all of them had the least amount of debris. If we kind of dive into the additional 9 systems that we looked at, some of them are repeats, but MasterShield here on the south side. So that's right over my shoulder there at the end. That came in 4th place. The GutterGlove Easy-on Gutter Protection System, which is a DIY product that you can find at Costco, came in 5th place. That's on the north side of the garage. LeafFilter, which is the 2nd slot right behind me here, that came in 6th place. That was followed by MasterShield on the north side of the garage. So it's the same location, just on the opposite side of the garage there. That was in 7th place. That's followed again by GutterLove, also on the north side of the garage. The HydroShield, which is right there in the 5th position over here. That one came in 9th place. And then the final 3 were Clean Mesh, which is also on the north side, LeafSolution on the north side, and LeafFilter rounded out at number 12, also on the north side of the garage. So that is where we stand for this test. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. And if you liked this video and found it helpful, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and you'll be notified of any future videos that we release. This is what I've been waiting for the last month or so. So I'll kind of show you what's going on with this, with these different systems, with the locust trees, which I consider to be among the worst offenders of any gutter protection system.